I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. Nashville is a music industry town, and Music Citizens is a WNXP and Nashville Public Radio podcast series about the people in the music industry who make music work. Previously, we've featured a club owner-operator, a scrappy manufacturer making small batches of vinyl records, the most prolific piano tuner in Nashville and maybe the world, and a hard-working production manager for live concerts. Today, episode 5, we meet Kim Buie, the Tastemaker, with one of the highest stakes jobs in the entire music industry, A&R. A&R folks, they're gatekeepers, the risk takers, the people who decide whether a label rises, falls, or fades away. Careers are launched or lost on the choices that they make. Legacies are written or never written at all. This is Music Citizens, episode 5, A&R exec Kim Buie, the Tastemaker.
I cried so hard when I wasn't able to sign N.W.A.
That is Kim Buie, an A&R representative.
It's so surprising to hear her say the letters N.W.A. because Kim Buie is known primarily as someone who has helped shape Americana for the last at least 2 decades.
Yeah, Lost Highway, New West,
30 Tigers. Yeah.
N.W.A., completely out of left field.
I remember in those early days when I was courting them in my little green Subaru, it was Dre, Easy, Yella, and Ren, MC Ren. I said, well, let's say this doesn't work out for you. What do you want to do? And they're like, this is going to work. And I said, yeah. I hear you. But if you could choose what path you would choose for yourself, what would it be? So Easy said he wanted to be a record label, like a label mogul. Dre said, well, I want to produce. And I'm like, okay, good. Yeah, you'd be great.
You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub, mama, I got what you need.
Dr. Dre casually in the back of the car thinking about at some point in the future becoming a producer, saying it to Kim Buie, who's sitting in the front seat.
I mean, it's insane. She was convicted about them, but wasn't able to get the artist to actually sign.
It was a good deal. It was the biggest proposed deal that I had been involved with. But Jerry wanted, I think, like $50,000 more, and our lawyer said no, and the deal went away. That was the first real heartache I experienced about not being able to work with somebody that I had developed a friendship with. And it broke my heart.
I think the N.W.A. story shows us this job of A&R, it's mostly losing. You don't get the big artists that you want to sign. And then when you do sign the artists that you want to sign, most of the time they don't work out. And so, I mean, I think that this job is just about the highest stakes that there are possibly in the music industry, because the A&R person is responsible for if a label survives or not.
They are the front line and the bottom line. It all comes down to the artists you sign or don't sign. People are fired. People's legacies are made or not made by the decisions that A&R people make.
I don't know how you do that.
I certainly don't know how you do it for decades. This is Music Citizens, a podcast about the people who make music work. I'm Jason Moon Wilkins, host.
I'm Justin Barney, reporter. This is episode 5.
Kim Buie, the Tastemaker.
Wow, a little unison action. Didn't even plan that. Can I just say that I learned so much about A&R in doing this? One thing I learned about A&R is that it stands for artist and repertoire.
Yes.
Jason, in your vast experience, what does an A&R person do?
For most people, when they think of A&R at all, they're thinking of the person who is finding the next band, next big thing, and trying to get them to sign on the dotted line for a record label.
A lot of people think, well, I love music, I have good taste, I love going to clubs. Okay, great. It's a lot more than that.
You're also signing legacy artists. You are renegotiating deals.
I worked with Elvis Costello, Lucinda Williams,
Are you alright?
William Burroughs, and Allen Ginsberg, this guy named Dwight Yoakam.
I think like a really easy, good, succinct way that a couple of people explained it was an A&R person is the liaison between the label and the artist.
Yeah.
What happens between being signed and a record actually coming out? My job is to nurture them or give them advice or help them build their team. Tom Waits, if he called me, he'd be like, doing some recordings and I needed somebody who can play like a Spanish guitar style. Do you know anybody? I said, well, I think I might.
I drink a thousand shipwrecks. Tonight I steal your paychecks.
It's finding that right match, somebody who's going to bring out all those good qualities that you believe an artist has.
You're helping pick the single. You are helping go through and sequence an album. You know, one of my memories of working with an A&R person, a major label, when I was managing bands was this very heated back and forth about sequencing. What the artist wanted, what we thought was a good idea, what the A&R person thought was a good idea. It was like knockdown dragouts about which song should be number 7 or which song should be 10. But that shows the detail of the creative process that they're in. And it starts with finding that artist, believing in them, and thinking, yes, it is worth my company's money and time, and it is worth my reputation to sign this artist.
And like most everything in the music industry fails.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows what the number is now, but for most major labels, 9 out of 10 things they sign will not make money.
As an A&R person, you have to be so confident in your artists, and then you fail most of the time.
Yep.
And you still have to be really confident in your taste.
Yeah.
And what accounts for taste?
I grew up in a really tiny little town, population 5,000 people, Wamego, Kansas.
Everybody's taste is based on what they were watching, what they were listening to, their background and story, and some parts of their own life.
And I remember these things. I was standing in front of our local IGA grocery store, and they had a little speaker outside, and then Light My Fire comes over on the radio. I was like, what's this, you know?
Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire.
That's when you know something has just hit you over the head, and you're like, what is that? I remember I was in high school at this time when I saw Kate Bush on Saturday Night Live.
My guest tonight has come all the way from England. This is her first time on American television. She's very wonderful. Will you please welcome Kate Bush?
And then my mom and we were in the only local record store there, and I walked in and I said, do you have Kate Bush? And they're like, who's that? And like, they had no idea, and they were guessing that I had the name wrong. And I'm like, no, I don't have the name wrong. So by the time I went to college and I started working at the college radio station, it's like, I found her. She does exist.
He's here again.
She went to KU.
Yep. Kansas University.
Yep. Like, you think of Kansas, you don't think the center of music. But then you have a college town where all these bands pass through. It is the gateway to the West.
Iggy Pop referred to Lawrence, Kansas as an oasis in the middle of nowhere. I, saw the Go-Go's before they exploded, and the Buzzcocks came through town and played at the Opera House, and I was also bartending at a local club. So how many hours a day did I work? All of them except when I was eating.
She was a music director at her college radio station. Shout out to music directors at the college radio station.
Absolutely.
All these things combined, really, it was my early formation. Mm-hmm. And when you start to realize how music can impact you. You know, it's like you can hear a song and you can know that it is just reaching inside to your deepest depth. Or you can hear something that is just of the moment and it is just awesome and makes you want to dance. And, you know, you come to this conclusion that it's emotion. Emotion is everything that drives music, and it's a shared experience as well.
I think that gets down to Kim's real understanding of what's at the core. That's kind of her specialty, is knowing what's at the core of an artist.
I think it gets down to her philosophy, too, on what she's looking for in music, that emotional connection.
Her first job at a label was with N.W.A. in California. They had signed this little scrappy, weird, alternative funk group called the Red Hot Chili Peppers. One of her very first projects that she worked on was sitting in as the Red Hot Chili Peppers made their very first album. You know what she did? She bought them a 6-pack of beer.
That's right. Because they were stuck creatively.
They were in the studio and Flea was getting frustrated. I brought a 6-pack of Budweiser because I knew that's what they liked, so I could afford it.
That shows instinct, you know?
Does.
And
It
that's not going in and being like, you need to turn the bass up here. She bought him a 6-pack of beer. Said, figure it out.
Yeah.
Very Kim.
So after N.W.A. Records, she goes to Nashville, and it's a really different turn. She goes into the world of major label country music.
Very different.
Getting to watch these really legendary session musicians and artists and country stars, Steve Earle, Roger Miller, Loretta Lynn.
I think you can consider all of the time from growing up in Kansas to being at the college radio station to the early days with N.W.A. to the formative days with MCA as the building of taste and instinct. And then Island Records is where the tools and the experience and all of it seem to come together.
Chris Blackwell was the owner of Island Records. You know, Bob Marley, U2, Robert Plant. I mean, just an amazing guy. And my first week on the job, Chris comes to the office. He has a meeting to see these two women singing their soul songs, and it was great. And after a couple songs, Chris looks at me and he's like, "What do you think?" Like, oh my God, I am like being put on the spot here. And I'm like, well, I think, you know, they have really great voices and wonderful personalities. I'm not sure these songs are developed enough for us to jump into this, but if you have more songs and want to send them to us, we'd be happy to listen. And Chris turns and looks at them and says, I agree with her.
And that's the job. That is it. It is awkward, difficult conversations with people who have put their lives into their music and they are offering it up to you in this vulnerable way. And most of the time you have to tell them it's not good enough.
I think the most important thing when you're looking to hire an A&R person, and I did a lot of hiring of A&R people, it's always, what is your taste? What is your opinion? Why do you believe in what you believe?
That's Peter Gambarg, former head of Atlantic Records.
And you want somebody to have the courage to say yes when the room says no, and the courage to say no when the room says yes. And that's not easy to do.
Steam is rising on the street. Guy on a bike smoking a joint. It's New York City, baby.
Should we just take the taxi?
Sure.
It's right there. He's right there.
Taxi. We're going to Brooklyn. I went to New York to follow Kim Buie at the show that she had set up for Ben Folds at the Grammy Museum.
Prior to working with Kim, I'd made sure that I didn't really have that much to do with the A&R people. I lean on her because she knows music.
We're here.
All right, that was really fast.
Did you know that Kim's first interaction with Ben Folds was sending him a rejection letter?
What? I had no clue.
It was in the middle of going to different semesters of college, so it was sort of a college band. It was called Majasha. Sent a demo tape, and I think she was the only one that wrote back, probably on Island Records stationery. You know, it wasn't like, you guys are great, you need to be making records. It was like, yeah, keep going.
The fact that she responded, that shows heart.
I think I always had this in me, that I was really more interested in the complete artist. The artist that comes in and they know who they are. And that my job is to not F it up.
Okay, you're first in line for Ben Folds. What do you like about Ben Folds?
I like the way he writes songs. It really, they're emotional and they mean stuff to me.
Last time we saw him, the audience all threw songs in on paper airplanes and spent the evening while he opened them up and played whatever we threw at him.
I've got friends on 4 different continents because of this dude. Like, I have a binder at home of every set list of every show I've seen.
What number is this?
This will be 86.
Ben Folds has had the kind of long-term artist career that has gone in lots of different directions. He is an artist who has developed.
Yeah.
And artist development is the kind of thing these days that so many major labels seem to just completely ignore.
Yeah.
So where does that leave major label A&R?
We will hear about that right after the break.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville. If you're just tuning in, we're traveling along with WNXP's Music Citizens to go inside the highest stakes job in the industry, A&R, also known as the most glamorous and most disappointing job in the music business. It's really mostly about losing, missing out on artists who then become superstars, or being the person who has to tell someone no to their lifelong dream. Coming up a little later, we'll hear from Steve-O Robertson, longtime A&R exec and founder of Severance Records, and Anae Richardson, whose job is to find and nurture songwriters for Dr. Luke's prescription songs. But now let's dive back into Music Citizens Episode 5 with Kim Buie, the Tastemaker.
There are different ways to approach A&R. And Kim's way is really to invest in artists, capital A artists, who work over long periods of time. I'm thinking Willie Nelson, folks she's worked with like Grace Jones, Etta James.
Kim Buie becomes a trusted ally for a musician like that, mainly because you can tell when you walk into her office that she's not just a music business person.
That's Erin Lee Tasjan, an artist that she worked with at N.W.A. Records.
Like there's a letter on her wall from William Burroughs thanking her for helping him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You're immediately just like, I kind of want to hang out with this lady.
That's the way that Kim does A&R. I think because largely she's worked in independent record labels and with independent artists. But there is a whole different way to do A&R. I talked to Pete Ganbarg, who we heard from before, who's worked at a major label for 30 years. And he sees the whole thing differently.
There's no better feeling in the world of high-fiving your artist when they're about to headline Madison Square Garden for the first time.
So he worked at Arista with Clive Davis.
One of the most legendary music industry personalities of all time, Whitney Houston, Patti Smith, and all points in between.
They signed Santana when he was late in his career. It's 1999.
Yeah.
I had the idea of what if we put Carlos Santana with a bunch of younger artists who grew up listening to his music.
Peter was really hands-on on this. He's doing the arrangements, he's picking the songs, he's picking the artists.
A friend of mine sends up this songwriter. His name is Ital Schur. Ital came up and he played me a song called Room 17. And I listened to it and I'm like, I think the music is great, but I don't like the lyric. I don't like the melody. At that point, Rob Thomas wasn't known for anything other than being the singer of this band called Matchbox 20. Rob had just come off tour. He was home for a while. He was living with his fiance, who was Spanish. He heard this track, and he decided to write a love letter to his fiance, Marisol. And that's how we got Smooth.
Give me your heart and make it real, or else forget about it.
So you did that as an A&R person?
Did what?
You got that song, you got the melody, you put the pieces together.
Yeah, that's the A&R's job is to do such a good job that nobody knows who you are. The invisible fingerprints. You know, I used to joke that Santana record, the album Supernatural, my fingerprints were on every note, but nobody would know.
His philosophy and what he was telling me the philosophy of the label is, we know how to make hits. It's telling the artist, the audience, everybody, trust us. We know how to do this. And Kim is like, trust the artist. They know how to do it.
And major labels really did function more the way that Kim functions when they began. If you look at the history of major labels in the 70s and even through the 80s, it was developing an artist for long term because catalog, so older records, were really how you made your money. So it was important for you to have an artist. It may take them a few albums to get there, but then you've got several records. People go back and buy them. You have this sort of legacy hit that people are going to buy every single year.
You have repertoire.
But major labels are driven now more than ever by hits, by truly single song or single album hits.
Now it's private equity money and hedge funds, and major labels are swinging for the Grand Slam home run.
And he was like, by the end, I was hiring coders to build mousetraps, to find artists that went viral before other labels. How did that work?
They would build programs that would say, okay, if something gets 1,000 plays on SoundCloud over the course of 60 minutes in the Northeast of the United States, I want to know about it, ping me. And they would find this stuff, and then they would tee it up to us. And if there was a compelling story, we would sign it.
One of these people that he signed was a guy named Alex Warren, who has the song that has the most plays in the world right now.
You're taking me out of the ordinary. I want you laying me down.
And I have never heard of this guy. Does that mean that you're looking for TikTok stars?
No. What we're looking for is great music that could translate to, a digital home where everyone lives.
What if the audience really loves an AI artist?
Great. The audience is undefeated. God bless the audience.
Just seeing your gears turn. What are you thinking?
Part of it makes me sad.
Yeah? What part?
I mean, we all are just statistics after all. And if anything, the digital age has shown us that. But I think about some of the best A&R stories, some of my favorite artists, how they arrived, who they became. And does this process just leave them out entirely? Does it completely remove the romantic notion of finding the diamond in the rough?
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with corporations that are beholden to stockholders, nobody wants to be patient. Patience is a dirty word, but great art takes time. It takes time to find its people. And those who are doing A&R in the future, who understand that, who can be patient, who can cut off all the noise, they're the ones. It's like the tortoise and the hare, They're going to be the tortoises who are going to win.
I can't think in terms of whether they're a hit-making artist or not. That's just not the way my brain goes. First, I just evaluate the talent for its own merits.
Why isn't that the way you think? I would think that as a label, they want hits.
Yeah, that's never really been my thing.
She's not trying to develop a song as a hit. She's trying to develop an artist over their career.
Look at who headlines festivals.
Mm-hmm.
It is very rare that it's a one-hit wonder. And we see some of the same names year over years because they have developed fan bases, they have developed careers, and that does take patience.
I have always placed a very high value on artists who live maybe in the middle. I mean, working with Lucinda Williams, she has a fantastic career. She can sell 500,000 records on any given release. Those are the ones that stick around. They have staying power. They're not the here and now. And believe me, there is room for all of it. It's just, if somebody said, oh, go find me another, pick one, Christina Aguilera. I wouldn't know. That's not my expertise. That's not my forte. To me, that's just like, shooting at a barrel and hoping you hit a pop star. And maybe not the best analogy, but it's really that simple. It's just, I know what I'm good at. I know what my skill sets are. I know talent when I see it.
If we go back to the original concept that an A&R person is that conduit between the artist and the label, it is that A&R person's confidence and belief and vision alongside the artist that is crucial for Peter Gambarg's dirty word of patience on the money side. Someone's funding it, they got to be patient. And the person who's going to help that patience, who's going to help shepherd this concept until it reaches its apex so they can be more them, that is the role of at least the really good A&R people.
And that's what Kim does.
I'm Blake Farmer, and Jason Moon Wilkins will be back with A&R execs Steve-O Robertson and N.W.A. Richardson after the break.
I'm Jason Moon Wilkins, and this is Nashville. I'm the program director for WPLN sister station WNXP, and I'm grabbing the mic for the rest of the show today. Sorry, Blake Farmer. We just heard the new Music Citizens episode, and now we're going to hear from two actual working A&R people. Joining us now are Steve-O Robertson and N.W.A. Richardson. N.W.A. is an A&R coordinator at Prescription Songs, known for their work in pop and hip-hop. Steve-O is an A&R veteran who spent years at Atlantic Records, recently founded the Severance label. He's responsible for signing a few artists you may know, including Collective Soul and Nashville's own Paramore and Rainbow Kitten Surprise. Thanks, y'all, for being here. Really appreciate it. Really, either one of you could have been this particular music citizen, and you being here to sort of continue this story and give us insight is huge. Let's start with you, Steve. So in Music Citizens, we just heard sort of competing concepts about A&R, which have always been that way to a certain extent, but it seems to be accelerated by the digital world and really post-pandemic. There's the romantic ideal, finding that struggling artist at a bar somewhere, and you're going to find them, that unknown gem. And then your former, compatriot Peter Gambarg talking about sending out folks with bots to try and find this viral person. Where do you fall in your philosophy as an A&R person?
I am fiercely a proponent of artist development, and that means signing things before they happen, right? So you can still develop things. Every artist is in need of they have an arc of their career where they develop. But so for me, and especially with my new label, Severance, we're an indie label, and I used to be at Atlantic Records, like you noted, and I used to have these sizable budgets where I could sign something that was exploding or getting, back in the day, radio airplay in a market that made the price tag go up, and I would have no problem, laying down a serious budget to sign an artist. But now But in true, even with that, even with at Atlantic and the budgets that I had, and my biggest successes or whatever to look at my career have been things that had less than zero going on. And so you mentioned Paramore. There was a lot of people involved in the beginning with Paramore, but I am the de facto A&R person that, you know, guided Haley and them into the. But you know, we signed Haley Williams. It was before there was a Paramore. She told us everything we needed to know after the fact. She said, "It's not me. I have a band." So all we had to do was follow her lead because we could see that she not only was a star, but she had vision. So now, I mean, data is great and it's out there and we're all using it in some way or another. I would say I use more data on my end now with Severance, with my partners at Big Loud Rock. I use data for my current roster to find out what's happening with them and where we need to push further. But as far as discovery goes, by the time if Chartmetric or some other, you know, way of finding things, finding new artists, by the time it's making enough noise to ping that, everybody knows about it. So I'm a little more, and it's out of necessity, and it's also because I don't want to overpay for artists, and I'm building a catalog and all this. I'm going to go with my gut, and I'm going to go with my network, and people are going to send me music, and I either love it or I don't. And I want to get to it before it pops off.
Well, and to your point, back in the not so distant past, the network was a huge part of this, right? And it seems like it maintains that. Haley Williams was a teenager who had not released music, you know, and someone turned you on to that. N.W.A, you work in a slightly different field, publishing than record label, but it's still about finding that artist and artist development. When you hear those two competing concepts, how much does data or online presence or any of that influence ultimately who you think is worth going after and signing?
For me, I feel like a lot of it is also like trusting like my gut and my instincts. I think like for data, when it comes to like finding a really great songwriter, or producer, or artist, like data can't really tell me if they're a great songwriter. It's just me really listening to those work tapes or those rough demos and like really hearing like the writing shine through beyond all the noise. So yeah, I definitely feel like for me, it's all about like instinct rather than data.
Well, and how do they get to you then? Is it, you guys mentioned Chartmetric, so for those not in the know, that's one piece of the pie that the music industry takes note of. Are there ways that you are getting out there? Is going to see a show still really important to you? Hey, can these folks actually pull this off live? Does that matter?
Yeah, I love seeing music live. I feel like that's always going to be first and foremost. So a lot of the cool talent that I'm seeing is live, and then a lot of it is through social media, just because that's a big part of, you know, our industry right now, and a lot of it is like through TikTok or Instagram. Honestly, I feel like Spotify does a really good job of curating specific playlists for me. So a lot of times, like, I love R&B, so I'll be on all these different R&B playlists, but then like I'll kind of go down the rabbit hole and I'm finding like all of these people that have maybe like 50 monthly listeners or like 300, but like the music's so good and like no one's really kind of discovered it yet. So I kind of use the combination of just like TikTok, going to live shows and those like curated Spotify playlists to find like those undiscovered writers and producers and artists.
Steve, you mentioned artist development, and it's something that we talk about a little bit in the episode as being a bit of a lost art sometimes. We've seen labels continue to do it well, and some people who are, it feels a little bit more like just throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. For you, starting this new label, working primarily in the independent space, do you feel there is time for that? Or is ultimately, are you just on the clock waiting for something to go viral?
It depends on who your partners are. Luckily, I've partnered with a company that believes in artist development. Not only like this is a necessity, we need to, if we're going to compete, we need to trust our ears and our gut and find things early, spend not so much money, and put all of our money and efforts into developing the artist, right? So luckily, the guy I work with the most, Joey Moy, who runs Big Loud Rock, like I have my own label and I am able to sign what I want, but I can do it with confidence because I know Joey is patient and the clock is not running like it is at a major label so much. And so I have the confidence that I can sign something that's a diamond in the rough, right? It has proven nothing other than Somebody sent it to me, or I stumbled on it on a playlist, and I was like, that's a voice, that's a point of view, that's, they haven't written their best songs yet, but for whatever reason, however cocky it sounds, I know Steve-O at Sever, I know that is an artist that's about to do their best work. And I don't even know if that answers your question, but
it does. It gets into something too that you, having listened to that episode just then, you worked with Peter and you worked at Atlantic. You worked at a really transitional time. From my seat, you and I know each other for a while. I was in music, I got out of music, and then started back in this weird time of the pandemic, launching this station, WNXP. And one of the things I noticed was that there seemed to be uncertainty in the industry in general on how anything worked. Yeah. Everyone you talked to viewed it slightly differently. How was that for you in sort of the final years of Atlantic? Like, how disruptive was technology to your day-to-day job?
Nobody, and I'll say this in current, nobody really knows what they're doing. We're starting to, it used to be a label superpowers were, right? It was like they had this giant funnel, and then the artist would sign, and then we'd finally get the record that we felt confident in, and we'd shove the single down into the funnel, and it would come out at radio, right? And hopefully they would play it, and that was a super simple way. And as we know now, and we're on the radio right now, I love radio. I listen to NXP all the time. I love it.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm a huge fan. It's just so much fun to be here at PLN and NXP. But anyway, now it's very difficult to know how to move a record. And there's the paid ads thing, and that is a legitimate way for labels to sort of, on the heels of engagement, when artists post on social media, we can then pivot and take this video that showcases their song and it's popping off. It got a bunch of shares on Instagram. We can then supercharge that with paid ads. And
paid ads on Instagram, TikTok, wherever.
Sure. Yeah. And it's very much, it's similar to radio. It's like how you get it in front of people, right? So these are new superpowers that labels are refining their skills at, and we're very adept at it at Severance and Big Loud. But so that's like the new way to move a record. But a lot of it is still fumbling in the dark, but it does help to have a label, like an artist that's serious and they don't have a low ceiling for themselves. They want to be beyond the biggest band in their town or their state. Having that many people at a label thinking about you and having a shared interest in making you as big as you can be within the confines of whatever your artistic vision is still very valid. And that's why I'm still in the label business, because there's something to it. But it is a brand new world where everybody's like, what about this? What about that? I think this will work. It's really kind of fumbling around, but we're finding our way.
Well, to that point, N.W.A, I wanted to ask you, you deal with a lot of younger artists, many of whom it's so different now. They could be making a song, releasing it immediately. What does signing to a publishing company or record label mean to the artists that you have been talking to and you've been working with?
Yeah.
Is that still a dream, I guess I should say?
Yeah, it's definitely a dream for a lot of these younger artists. And I think like how the industry is now, like you can be an independent artist for so long because you can just distribute things, by yourself. But I think a lot of these artists still want a team, whether it's like the label team, their management, or publisher. So I think like whenever I'm meeting these artists or writers or producers, like I'm letting them know like, hey, like, yes, like we can still pursue like the artistry, but also like you can be writing for others, you can be writing for Sync, you can have all these other opportunities and ways to like make money, as well as like focusing like on your artist project. And I think like it's easier to do that when you do have like a publisher in your team that's like thinking about you and not just having like songs just sitting on a catalog and it's like, okay, like these are all the songs you're not going to release. It's like, okay, well, we can find a home for these songs and still have it out in the world. So
yeah, having a team still means something. We see it on this end at WNXP on the music side. There's a big difference in an artist who's just coming sort of by themselves and someone who does have that support. We know that they're going to be able to follow up on whatever airplay or event or something, the opportunities that they're given. It makes a difference. If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Jason Moon Wilkins, filling in for Blake Farmer as we have listened to our most recent episode of the Music Citizens podcast, found wherever you get your podcast, talking about the role of A&R in the music business, and we are so lucky to have Anae Richardson from Prescription Songs and Steve O. Robertson from Severance Records. Steve, you've been doing this a while. I'm not aging you. I think we're close. Back in the 80s and 90s, though, when you start out, there was, like you said, about a way to get a record going once someone signed. There was also a bit of a norm of you form a band, you get going live, maybe you get a couple of bucks up. I remember doing this in Jackson, Mississippi way back when, to go into some guy's studio so you can get a tape together, and the tape you would send to a label. The role of an A&R person isn't just to sign the artist, it's to work with them on their craft. Now with people's ability to release a song the same day, how has that changed the way you work with the artist on even helping them decide what to release?
I mean, the things that you outlined kind of goes to discovery and working with an artist. And there's something about, because the barrier of entry, which is what you're hinting at, right, is so much lower. Like, you know, when I started this job in the late 90s, if I got a recording that sounded good, which now is the norm, but back then that meant somebody thought you were good enough to spend a little bit of money in the studio to get you in there. That was like a hurdle that you cleared. I was like, oh, well, somebody cares enough. Some studio owner or somebody's parents or whatever, like, you know what, we should pay for $2,000 a day for a studio or whatever to get you in the studio. And as dumb as it sounds, because you're looking for all kinds of clues, when I would get a demo, it's like, oh my God, this sounds like a professional recording. It doesn't mean really that they're going to be a huge artist, but it is a barrier that they clear. And then further to that, and then when people can make great records on their laptops in their bedrooms, right? For the most part. I usually use this analogy that I think is pretty accurate, like pre those days in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, you know, finding that kind of talent was always a needle in a haystack, right? Yeah. Does that, you know that phrase, needle in a haystack? Okay. Yes. I feel like I got to check with younger generations to make sure that's still. So now the hate, it's still a needle in a haystack. Finding the next Kurt Cobain or the next McGee or whatever, like, or Dijon, like we were talking about, like truly groundbreaking, commercially viable artists is still a needle in a haystack. Only the haystack is 10 times bigger and the needle is the same size. That's how it feels as an A&R.
That's so good.
So because they're not making, just because the technology allows it doesn't mean they're making more McGee's or more Kurt Cobains.
True.
It just means you got to go through a lot more stuff that sounds pretty good to get to got to go through a lot of good to get to the great.
You absolutely do. I mean, we obviously function on a slightly different side of it, but in a similar vein in that, it's you have so much to choose from. People ask, how do you get a song on WNXP? And I think about the word barriers you just said. And Anae, I wanted to get your take on this too. I know that we do look at, okay, someone will say, for example, a Nashville artist. Well, how are you deciding between this artist or that artist to play? Well, it does make a difference if I'm hearing about it from 3 or 4 different people or I see it pop up somewhere, because that shows me they're motivated. It shows me that I'm not alone maybe in liking this. How do you, what is your network, and how do you see that network in influencing, the people you're listening to and going after?
Wait, reword the question.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about, okay, I like this artist, but nobody else has talked about this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Are you leaning on fellow people within the industry? Like, what is your second opinion from music?
Usually if I really like an artist and there's something about them that sticks out to me, I like to put them in the room, put them in action, with already a couple of our writers or producers, and getting feedback from other creatives in town, I feel is the best way to really see what we're working with. So I think that's usually what I kind of based off of, okay, I like them, but what are other creatives saying? What are other producers or writers, how are they in the room? I feel that's really good feedback for me. And then usually once I get really good feedback from them, then I'll present it to the team. But again, there are times where you're in those A&R meetings and someone's playing something and no one loves it. But if if that happens where everyone's like giving me no reaction or it's just like, oh, it's okay, but like I still feel super strongly about it, then I'm going to continue to chase that, you know, versus like if it's something that can make me doubt my mind because other people aren't into it, then it's like, okay, maybe I need to keep listening to the music or maybe I need to keep watching them. But yeah, I think it's
a lonely feeling. In it, if you're at an A&R meeting, you're like, I think this is awesome. And then you play it, everybody's like, meh. But further to what Ade is saying, I have found it's such a funky, weird, and you did a great job on the podcast of explaining what a weird, strange place it is directly between the artist and the label, and you're between art and commerce, and that's exactly where we find ourselves in A&R, is trying to serve the artist and help them feel good about the art they're making, and then try to get a couple things that are actually going to be commercially successful. But I read that book, Malcolm Gladwell book, Blink, which I love his books, and that one in particular is great for A&R people because it's that initial gut reaction that you have. And I have found when I find an artist and I love it and I play it for somebody else, whether it's my wife or another A&R or a promotion person or whatever, I'm just like, oh, that's my natural. That's how you do this job. That's how all my friends from high school were like, of course this is what you do. You wouldn't shut up. You wouldn't leave us alone to turn us on to new artists. Yeah. So, but the Blink book taught me that, and it's all about gut reaction, is if I play something for somebody and I'm excited about it, and if they're like, I don't know, and then if I think you're an idiot in my mind, then I know that I'm onto something.
Yeah, it is. I mean, trusting your gut, as Peter laid out in the episode and you're talking about now, is it's a huge part of this, but it is difficult. I remember being an artist manager in the early 2000s, and that coming to an office like yours, Steve, for example, with an artist, and you are so convinced, and you play it for them, and they're like, nope, and it's just womp, womp, womp. I mean, it sucks. The absolute worst. But it did make me really appreciate and feel for being on the other side of that. You're telling someone, nope, you're just not good enough. And
Pete Gambar is really good at that, by the way.
Is he? Yeah.
Yes.
I had one of those experiences with him.
He's got no problems. Like, this isn't good.
Yes. Well, Steve, one thing that came up in the episode that now is going to be my default question for every A&R person I ever talked to. She talked about the one that got away for her. Is there one for you where you were so close and you wanted it, but just something happened?
I do get this question a lot. And again, Kim Buie is a veteran and so am I. And I guess that means I'm old, but I don't feel old. I really steer clear of it because that's what people remember. They're going to remember the guy that passed on the Beatles or whatever. Right. I will tell you, I have two, I can count on just a couple, 2-3 fingers on ones that I messed up. Like, I'll take responsibility. Like, I had them, they were up close, and I was like, maybe the next one. And then then something happened. But I will tell you, one of my favorite bands of all time is Kings of Leon. Yeah. And I take no credit for their success at all. So I'm not an A&R trying to do that. But I did, because my Nashville network was so great. The minute the Followell brothers showed up in Nashville, I got an email from Kent Marcus. I don't think you'd mind me saying that. No. Saying these brothers just got here, and nobody knows what this is or what it's going to be, but it's something. And I started to get the demos, and I agreed. So anyway, that was one, and then I ended up flying them to New York, and I ended up getting sick, and I couldn't go to the meeting, but they sang in the office, and everybody. So I was on a speakerphone, and I was hearing them. No. This is before they came up with Kings of. They weren't even Kings of Leon yet. Yeah, it was just, you remember that? You were here for the whole.
I do.
And so. That's one, and then we ended up not doing it for whatever reason, but that is one that getting that close to greatness and something that was about to become something else is something I'll never forget.
Steve, we will not remember you just for those, but we will remember you for being here. Steve Robertson and N.W.A. Richardson, thank you for being here. And thank you for tuning in this hour. Music Citizens is a project of WNXP and Nashville Public Radio. It was created by me, Jason Moon Wilkins, and reported and produced by Justin Barney. You can listen to all 5 episodes at WNXP.org or wherever you get your podcasts. This is Nashville. It's a production of Nashville Public Radio. If you missed yesterday's episode, we heard how Tennessee was divided into 3 grand divisions. They're not just lines on a map. They're written into state law and represent our cultural heritage and political history. Listen in our podcast feed at thisisnashville.org. Today's episode was produced by Mary Mancini, directed by Tasha A.F. Fleming. Our board operator is Liv Lombardi. The masterminds behind our theme music, Larange and Amir Blade. Conversation doesn't end here. You can comment and tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us at Blue Sky and Instagram and X at This Is Nashville. I'm Jason Moon Wilkins. Thanks for listening.